For today's cup of coffee, I have a very interesting story from the Daily Mail, and this is by Hope Sloop, and this was January the 1st of 2023. And it says, a chief at NASA is raising red flags over China's ambitions to get to the moon. In an interview, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson says he and others within the scientific agency are growing increasingly concerned over what the country plans to do when they make it to the moon. Nelson believes China could attempt to corner the market on resource-rich locations on the moon's surface and try to block out the U.S. and other countries looking to make it to the lunar object. Quote, there is potentially mischief China can do on the moon, end quote, said one other official monitoring the space race. The concerns come less than 1 month after 3 Chinese astronauts returned from a 6-month trip in which they helped to build an open and new space station. In an interview with Politico, Nelson said he and others are concerned the communist nation will attempt to claim territory over the moon upon their arrival. The NASA administrator, who was appointed by U.S. President Joe Biden in 2021, stated, quote, it is a fact. We're in a space race, and it is true that we better watch out that they don't get to a place on the moon under the guise of scientific research. And it is not beyond the realm of possibility that they, China, say, keep out, we're here, this is our territory, end quote. The NASA boss said he fears China will mimic their strategy when it came to claiming land and water in the South China Sea. He said, quote, if you doubt that, look at what they did at the Spratly Islands, end quote. China has taken claim over the hotly contended Spratly Islands and have used the islands to house weaponry and other structures possibly large enough to store ballistic missile launchers. NASA and the China space program were both working overtime to make it to the moon in the coming years and have spent recent months working towards the goal. The 26-day Artemis 1 mission from November to December was considered a success as an Orion capsule orbited the moon, moving NASA one step closer to its goal of building a human presence on the moon. Estimates say NASA could see success in their mission as early as 2025. Nelson's concerns could be exacerbated by Congress's passage of a budget that did not include the full funding of the agency request. Despite the agency not receiving the full budget, Nelson said they will still fund almost all of their most important assets, including the upcoming Artemis 2 and Artemis 3 moon missions. The primary concern is that delays in any of NASA's programs in the coming years could put the U.S. behind China. Space Force Lieutenant General Nina Armigo said last month, quote, it's entirely possible that they could catch up and surpass us absolutely. The progress they've made has been stunningly fast, end quote. China in the last few years alone has launched orbiters, landers, and rovers that have reached the moon and Mars. Nelson echoed, quote, China within the last decade has had enormous success and advances. It is also true that their date for landing on the moon keeps getting closer and closer, end quote. Another key concern for security experts is that China's broader space goals could include interfering with space systems operated by the United States. One former commander of the International Space Station said they believe the country who comes out on top has much to gain from the space race. Terry Virts, a former commander of the International Space Station, stated, quote, on one level, it is a political competition to see whose system works better. What they really want is respect as the world's top country. They want to be the dominant power on Earth, so going to the moon is a way to show their system is working. If they beat us back to the moon, it shows they are better than us, end quote. Virts believes the Chinese government could work swiftly to dominate space if given the chance. Virts continued, quote, if they set up infrastructure there, they could potentially deny communications, for example. Having them there doesn't make things easier. There is a real concern about Chinese meddling, end quote. Chinese officials deny any assertions made by the U.S. space and security experts. Lao Pingju, spokesperson for the Chinese embassy, said, quote, some U.S. officials have spoken irresponsibly to misrepresent the normal and legitimate space endeavors of China. China firmly rejects such remarks, end quote. Nelson said with the approval of $24.5 billion for 2023, a 5% increase over 2022, he believes NASA will have enough to cover the essentials. The goal for the next Artemis mission is to have it operational within 2 years, according to Nelson. He said, quote, hopefully we can speed that up. End quote. He said, sharing that agency hopes to send a crew into the moon's orbit by 2024. But Nelson told Politico that goal may be ambitious. He stated, quote, they tell me they can't speed it up, that they need time to redo them and certify and all that. Regarding the process to use the avionics from the Artemis 1 in a cost-saving move. The eventual goal is to get astronauts back to the moon by 2025. He said further, quote, all of that is going to depend on two things. The spacesuits, are they ready? And is SpaceX ready? And I ask the question every day, how is SpaceX's progress? And all of our managers are telling me they are meeting all of their milestones, end quote. When asked if the U.S. will make it back to the moon before China, Nelson responded, the good Lord willing. Not all are entirely concerned that the U.S. may find itself in a full-blown space race, however. Victoria Sampson, who works with Secure World Foundation, stated, I'm dubious, end quote. Sampson pointed to the Outer Space Treaty and states that countries who signed, including the U.S. and China, are unable to make claims on the moon. She did, however, agree the two countries could fight for limited resources and stated, quote, that's where we have made the agreement that there is no need to engage with China, end quote. Now, there's a lot of things to be considered in this story. We had a story several months ago about this thing with China trying to get to the moon first, and not exactly sure what they had found through some of the space stations, but apparently it is of more value than it's ever been in the past. And so this space race thing, for it to all of a sudden pop up again, because this is pretty sudden. Then you've got the alien thing and the UFO thing, and all of it's bizarre. It truly is. And what was further interesting in this, when they had the quote from the woman of the Secure World Foundation, I mean, who knew that was a thing? And I'm going to include a link to the website, and give me just a second here. And supposedly their mission is to work with governments, industry, international organizations, and civil society to develop and promote ideas and actions to achieve the secure, sustainable, and peaceful uses of outer space benefiting Earth and all its peoples. Now that sounds like a lot of stuff that we've been hearing from other organizations. And in June 2021, they had their third summit for space sustainability. Now, some of you out there may have a lot more information about this organization than I do, but that's it. I think that sounds very concerning. We've heard a lot of other organizations. I want to know who funds them. Now, they do have, as far you can go on the website and they have the annual report, and apparently their budget is not that large. So if this is a new board that is being funded and does not have that much of a budget, is it truly legitimate? Do we really think that national leaders would sign this stuff, or that they would abide by it? I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that has not heard of this, because I read the news regularly, like lots, more than I'd like to admit to it. So is this just another one of these pie in the sky things, sort of like the CO2? Oh, we promise we're not going to breathe from now until whenever. But you can look at that. There's a lot of things there on the website. In addition to the annual report, it's got about Space Sustainability 101. And I'm sure that sounds familiar to everyone. Which it's got subsections: why we care about space sustainability, the persistent problem of orbital debris, radio frequency interference, strategic stability in space, international governance of space activities, international initiatives to ensure space sustainability, improving space sustainability awareness, and the global nature of space activities. That last one being the key one. And is this part of the New World Order? I'm sure that it is. It's not enough that they screw up the world or try to screw up the world. Now their plan is to go outside and then to screw up space. So one has to ask, who is truly behind all this? And we know the typical names and stuff, and there's no way that that handful of people could have enough funds to do all that they're doing to corrupt governments and countries and all this other stuff. And we hear the rumors that's of who is behind them. These are the nameless, faceless ones. But I am thoroughly convinced that at the top of the food chain on this, these are fallen angels. Could they possibly be reptilians? Well, I think that's how they can appear. Not sure on that. I know I sound like David Icke more and more every day. But the man was right about a lot of stuff. He truly has been. And they called him crazy for, 30, 40 years? Until a lot of the stuff that he was talking about started, to come to pass. Same thing for our buddy Alex Jones. And so y'all can do a little bit of research on that. Like I said, I'll leave that link and the article link in the description box. Let me know what you think about the story, what you think. Share knowledge if you know anything about this space sustainability and the Secure World Foundation. Because anytime they name something like that, it means the exact opposite. So just, let us know in the comment section. And if you've enjoyed this, give this a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. If you've had experiences with the paranormal or supernatural, encounters with UFOs, aliens, cryptids, you can send me an email, cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com, and the email address is always in the description box. If it takes me a while to get back to your email, I will eventually. I'm sorry. It's a matter of going from chaos to chaos here a lot of days. And with seconds to go, battery died. I really, really hate Mercury in retrograde. Anyhow, let's try it again. Know that you all are loved and appreciated. Thank you for spending time and coffee with us. And we'll see you on the next cup. Bye.